welcome to the MSys podcast series. This is your host Vinny Dantis, and with me today I have Jagdeep Jain on this show. Hey Jagdeep, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for agreeing to do this podcast with us. So let's begin the show. So Jagdeep, today we're going to learn about test automation from you. But before we begin, we'd like to know a little about you and the work you do at MSys.
Okay, I have worked on end-to-end test automation for a couple of projects, specifically UI automation testing. My experience evolves around end-to-end automation testing since starting of my career and specifically on UI automation testing. I have experience in testing large ERP and banking applications where we have written more than 3000 automation test scripts for end-to-end test automation, and we have infrastructure in place where we can identify regression on every code check-in. I have also in-depth experience in e-commerce application performance testing where thousands of users logs in every day. In last month, as a co-author, I have released a book titled as Learn Apache JMeter by Example, which covers Apache JMeter 3.0 and later versions. It is available on Amazon, Flipkart and other worldwide book selling sites. Currently here at MSys I am working as a QA architect, and my role involves working with people identify best possible ways to improve quality of our client products by enabling them with test automation. Whether it be it a database testing, service layer testing, front end or performance testing.
Wonderful. So Jagdeep, why is end-to-end test automation such a dear topic to you?
Nowadays, product development life cycle is shorter, and considering the competition, we need to have good quality product releases in the market in less time. I would say time to market should be less as compared to competitors. If we adapt to end-to-end test automation, then finding regressions would be much faster and release testing would be less time consuming. Software testers will get more time to find more bugs. Confidence in releasing the product is more. Also, in case of any issues, if we need to provide immediate patch releases, the response time on the issues will be very less, and you have the safety net of automated test switch in place, and which is end-to-end test automation.
So Jagdeep, how would you describe the concept of end-to-end test automation?
Okay, so software is various components. Let's take an example of minimal e-commerce site which sells mobile phones. It has a database which stores user details, product details and respective transaction data. A service layer which does operations on data, a presentation layer which deals with the user and allow users to do various operations to accomplish certain things. For example, buying a mobile phone. Now let's assume the software company which is developing the e-commerce site does just manual testing and product version 1.0 is out. And now there is some new requirements which has impact on the existing service layer. Imagine the testers somehow skipped testing impacted area and how much loss the e-commerce site could have. Imagine about the loss. E-commerce company can bear if the impacted area is total amount paid by the customer. In other words, if we have a test automation for existing services, then we could have caught this bug already. Now just the service layer testing is not enough. We need to make sure that services which are saves the transaction to the database are actually doing that. This is where we need back-end database testing. This is also not enough, and we need to show the customer that the transaction really happened, and that is where you need to have front-end automation. And again, this is not enough. If you can't scale up your web application with concurrent number of user sessions during peak hours, we need to ensure that every user gets enough time to complete transaction and the response time should be less than 4 seconds per click. To summarize, we need front-end service layer database and performance test automation to deal with situations where we are rapidly changing existing requirements. Once we have a stable product, then we need to work on it to make sure that nothing breaks in the system.
Interesting. So what do you think is the ideal approach towards developing end-to-end test automation?
If you've got a good fundamental programming background, you will pick up the tool relatively easy. The key is learning how to apply the tool to do various works. For example, developers have a certain view of how application works which is facilitated by product owner. If we go with agile development process, this is really important as the view while doing test automation is really the key to have successful test automation. Good example would be couple of services running together. Then you must have a use case which stitches together front end, back end, and few services which satisfy certain conditions. A simple example would be login followed by reset password and again followed by login with a new password. Here you will be dealing with front end login reset password service, backend database where password gets stored. And let's assume couple of users are doing this parallelly. This will form a better use case than testing individual cases like just login or just reset password.
Okay. And which are the tools that should be used for achieving end-to-end test automation?
Talking about the tools specific to each layer, I have worked on DBUnit for database testing, RestAssured for service layer testing, Selenium for front-end testing. Java is the most preferred language for test automation as it has lot of APIs and packages which are open source for various requirements. In combination to these tools, I would like to mention org.JSON for reading JSON input, output, JUnit, TestNG, RestAssured and other test frameworks. Maven for package management. Ruby and Python are the most other used scripting languages which are used for test automation. And yes, JMeter for load and performance testing. Nowadays, JavaScript has also come along as a preferred tool for test automation for service layer and front-end testing. We should effectively use these tools based on our expertise.
And what about the manual testers who want to move towards automation testing now? What would you suggest them?
For people out there who still working on manual testing and want to learn test automation, there are certain things you need to learn, like what you are trying to test, what technology you are working with. As far as getting information for people to start with, she or he should have certain understanding of basic principles about programming languages and in general test automation.
Mm-hmm. And what is your opinion on utilizing continuous integration while doing end-to-end test automation?
Right, I have missed talking about CI earlier. This is very important while doing end-to-end test automation. All of the test suite should be part of CI/CD system. Infrastructure should be set up in such a way that with every check-in, the respective test suite should get triggered and informs the concerned developer in case of any errors after check-in, so that it can be quickly fixed before it causes some more damage.
And what percentage of end-to-end test automation have you achieved so far?
So basically it is not about end-to-end test automation percentage. What we need to calibrate is based on the application under test. Type of application defines where the automation is needed. It may happen that we are just dealing with front-end application only.
So this means your approach towards end-to-end testing is very critical, right? So what is your approach towards achieving end-to-end test automation?
So basically identification of end-to-end scenarios is the first step, followed by selecting tools which suit your requirements and later implementing the given scenario. It is about the design as well. If the team decides to write different test frameworks for different layers and merging together or writing single test framework which satisfy all kinds of needs. Once this is done, integrating with CI/CD and later adding modifying test scripts should be the ideal approach towards end-to-end test automation.
Mm-hmm. So, Jagdeep, we all know that quality and testing are concepts that go hand in hand, right? So,
Yes.
how can quality be improved by adopting this method?
This is a relative term. It is like how many end-to-end scenarios you have identified. Are there any more? Have customers reviewed it? Has the team implemented all the cases exactly as customer requirements? If we did all this with perfection, then we can say that there is very little scope where you will find P1, P2 bugs in production.
Excellent. Thank you for educating us on test automation and its importance in software development and delivery. Jagdeep, it's great having you here on this show today and getting your views on this topic. Thank you so much for your time. Hope to see you again.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our podcast, and thanks for tuning in, folks. If you have any feedback for us, you can write to us at marketing@msystechnologies.com. If you would like to hear about anything else in the future, something that is dear to you, please let us know. Until next time, take care.